Welcome to my new video after a while, and before we get too emotional, let's take a look at this position. It's white to move, and what would you play here? You can pause the video here if you want. Also, you can answer 3 questions. Let's answer the first question. Weaknesses on both sides. Well, I don't see a particular weakness on white's side. Maybe white's light squares on the king side are weak, but currently it's not a huge problem until maybe the bishop gets active. But as you see it on a6, it's not a problem. Bishop on a6 is a big pawn, so it's not gonna happen. On black's side, regarding pawns, f6 pawn seems slightly weakened. Also, king's position is a bit compromised because the 7th rank is exposed. And that's about it. Our opponent's plan could probably be to improve his bishop, because on a6 it doesn't do much. The only thing that works for black here is knight on d4. We don't have big concerns as white. The third question is, what's our worst place piece? Bishop on b4 is very good. It blocks the queen side, it defends the a3 pawn, so I wouldn't say it's a bad piece. Rook on d6 is very active. Queen on e3 is still not fully active, so you could argue that queen on e3 is also bad, but I think at the moment knight on d3 is the worst place piece. It looks the most passive, and how do you improve it? It's not obvious, because you cannot jump to c5 due to queen takes d6. What's weak in black's position is this construction. And there was a small tactical sequence which white used to improve his piece. That move was knight f4. Now, the point is that after e takes f4, you can take on d4. And now the f6 pawn is quite exposed. Plus, rook d7 is a threat. So that would not be the best for black. After knight f4, what can you do? You can go queen f7 to anticipate knight d5 with knight d6. But there's a problem with bishop d2 now, targeting h6. If black tries to block with g5, then there's h4. And the point is, if you take on h4, then I have queen h6 and knight f6 in the end, which forces black to give up his queen. So after h4, maybe you can go bishop b7 to improve the bishop, but after hg and then fg, then there's a very nice tactic here, and the move is knight c7. The point being, after queen c7, you can take a knight on e6 and then take on g5. And if you take on c7 with the knight, then queen takes g5, and if king f8, rook f6, and the queen is lost for black. What can black do? White wants to go for knight d5 and capture an f6. You cannot go rook f8 because rook a6. So if you stop knight d5 with bishop b7, can you find now the best move for white? The best move is queen takes d4. And now the point is, of course, if you take the queen, knight e6, and you take on c7. If black feels resourceful and tries to stop knight e6 and rook d7 at once by bishop c8, then white can just step aside with queen b2, and this is not pleasing because of queen takes f6, and also g6 drops, and white has too many extra pawns. So in the game he played bishop c8 to stop ideas like queen takes d4 and having a fork on e6. But now white has a wide choice of moves, such as fill in the blanks. What would you play if you were white? Now pause the video and find a move for white. Also, there are a couple of moves, so you might be right. If your move was rook takes f6, you're correct. If he takes on f6, knight d5, take a queen. If ef4, then you can take on d4, and black is also in trouble because he is a pawn down and his king is very exposed. Let's say if king tries to step aside from the discovered check by king h7, you can simply take on f4 and have 2 pawns. A move can be knight d5, just simply taking on f6 on the next move. In the game, white found a fancier move, knight takes h5. Black took, and now the final blow, rook takes f6. Going for queen h6 and a very quick checkmate. A black took on f6, and now queen h6 was played, king f7, and we have a skewer on the 7th rank, after which you have queen takes c7, and very soon e5 is going to drop. But be careful, don't allow yourself something like this. If black plays king g6, don't be a sheep and don't take on e5, because, you know, this can be quite embarrassing. Knight f3 and then black is a piece up. And the rook, yeah. Just play king g2 here and then take on e5 and everything's gonna be okay. Bye. No, just kidding, just kidding. So this was it. We had this position in which only the knight on d4 was working. You have to coordinate your pieces and you have to work together. The knight has to work with the rook and all the pieces, you know, blah blah blah. Here, by small tactics, white improved his knight to f4. Black wasn't able to capture on f4 because of queen d4, and now dual threats of rook d7 and queen takes f6 were too much for black. So he chose to improve his bishop, but it allowed all kinds of jumps. Even knight d5 was possible here, but white chose this very fancy knight takes h5, and after gh, rook takes f6 was killing on spot. Let's say if you go for something like bishop e6, I have queen h6, and after king g8, just this check, king f7 and rook g7 with a quick finish. And actually here black resigned. After this, king f7, queen h7, king f6, queen c7 would be played, and like I told, don't be naive and don't fall for some tricks like king g6. Oops, I blundered my pawn. Oh no. This, boom. No, don't do this. Just go king g2, avoid these forks, and you're gonna be fine. Until next time, bye.